Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to European English History. Today we'll be covering the third session. For most of you, I believe you have started school already. I hope you guys have had good school days so far, no matter if you're virtual or if you're hybrid. All right, let me start sharing my screen. Nope, that's the wrong one. All right. So today's session is session 3. My name's Andrea Ying. If you haven't met me before, welcome back. Let's talk about Viking invasions because those are always very interesting. So the first recorded landing of the Vikings were in 787 AD on the southwest coast of England. The first major attack on Britain was in 793 at a monastery as given by the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. However, by then the Vikings were almost well established in certain areas of England, and there are a lot of raids that were not recorded. So records do show the first Viking attack taking place in 794. The Vikings arrived and they upset the political and social atmosphere of Britain and Ireland. They took a lot of places. They took Northumbria, they took East Anglia. Even if Wessex, the one where Alfred the Great ruled, they managed to contain the Vikings. They were defeated at Ashton in 871. There was a second invading army, and the Saxons had no choice but to be in defensive position. However, the Viking invasion gave Alfred a chance to prove himself to be a Greek king, and that's exactly what he did. Let's talk about the rise of Wessex. So Alfred's successful warding off the Vikings, he brought Wessex and Mercia a lot of peace, and he recovered the economy in a lot of areas that were previously taken over by the Vikings. So Alfred's success was preserved by his son, who won a lot of important victories over the Danes in East Anglia. And this was followed by a crushing victory in 917 AD at Chelmsford. So these military gains, it allowed Edward to fully absorb Mercia into his kingdom and add East Anglia to the places he would conquer. He also reinforced his northern borders to fight against Northumbria. He rapidly conquered a lot of English kingdoms. His dominance was reinforced by his son, who extended the borders of Wessex northward. In 927, he contained and conquered the Kingdom of York and led a land and naval invasion of Scotland. So these conquests allowed Ethelstan to take the title King of the English for the first time in forever. Let's talk about Ethelred. He screwed up. Well, he screwed up pretty bad. England remained a fairly stable place, fairly dominant. A lot of the kings after Aethelstan did a pretty good job in running the country. However, in 978 AD, you have Ethelred. He screwed up. So, he got the throne and the Danish resurfaced. So the two powerful Danish kings, Harold Bluetooth and Sweyn, they both launched devastating invasions of England. And the Anglo-Saxon forces were resoundingly defeated in 991. A lot of more Danish attacks followed, and their victories were very, very frequent. So Ethelred did not manage to control his nobles, and he grew very, very desperate. He found the worst solution of all. He wanted to pay off the Danish. So across 20 years, he paid a lot of large sums to the nobles to keep them away from English coasts. These payments are called dangelts, and they screwed up the English economy. Ethelred then tried to make an alliance with Normandy and France. He married the Duke's daughter, Emma. He wanted to strengthen England. Then he made a very bad mistake. In 1002, he ordered the massacre. He killed all the Danes in England. So, in response, Sweyn was not happy. He devastated England in the next several years. By 1013, a lot of major cities had fallen to the Danes, so Ethelred escaped to Normandy and Sweyn took the throne. But Sweyn died in 1014 and Ethelred came back to England. But he was confronted by Sweyn's successor Nut. In 1016, Ethelred also died, so Nut defeated the remaining Saxons, and he seized the throne and crowned himself King of England, so he had a Viking king. Let's talk about England under the Danes. So there were a lot of new Scandinavian attacks on England at the end of the 10th century. Ethelred ruled a very long time, but he lost his kingdom to Denmark, even if he recovered it following Sweyn's death. His Ethelred's son Edmund died shortly afterwards, so Nut became the King of England, and under his rule the kingdom became the center of government for his empire, which included Denmark and Norway. So Nut was succeeded by his sons, but in 1042, the original Saxon dynasty was restored by Edward the Confessor. However, we have a problem. So usually when a king dies, his son is put on the throne. But Edward did not have a son, so that's going to be a problem. There was a conflict over his succession in 1066. He had to struggle against Godwin, and he had to struggle against the Normans. So, after Edward died, there was a major conflict. So, Harold Godwinson became king, so he was appointed by Edward right before he died. But William of Normandy and the Norman king, Harold, and Sweyn II of Denmark, they all thought that they were rightful heirs to the throne. But there was also someone else called Edgar, but he's not very important because he was too young, and usually if you're young, you don't really have a lot of powerful supporters, so you're not very important. So in September 1066, Harold and the English king Harold's brother landed in northern England with around 15,000 people and 300 longships. Harold defeated the king of Norway and he killed his own brother at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. On 28th September 1066, William of Normandy, he invaded England in a campaign called the Norman Conquest. He marched from Yorkshire and he killed Harold at the Battle of Hastings on 14th October. So after William came to the throne, he crushed all the oppositions and he was crowned on Christmas Day 1066. He spent 5 years facing a series of rebellions and a small-scale Danish invasion, but he got rid of them and he established a regime. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good weekend.